Hi everyone, I'm April and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. First thing, to start this wonderful episode off, I want to say welcome to all my returning viewers, but I want to say a big welcome and thank you for coming to all the new viewers and subscribers that I have received over the last month. I know that Miss Aquilla from a Lefty podcast mentioned my podcast, and I believe that that's where a lot of you came from, and I appreciate that so much, and you are more than welcome here. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of who I am and how my podcast kind of works is I am from Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and I am a retired 911 operator. Excuse me. Tickly. You may hear some background noise if you haven't noticed that from the last episode. I have 2 cats and 2 canaries, and sometimes they can be very vocal. My daughter lives with me, and sometimes she kind of comes in and out, and so you may hear her as well, and it's all good. It's life. I tend to talk about my knitting, my crochet. Sometimes I'll talk about life, not a lot, so don't worry. Books that I have read, and sometimes TV shows or movies that I may have seen. So I don't know where to start. I got quite a few things in front of me. I guess I'll start with this. This is one of the test knits that I did that I finished this past month. Let me see if I can get up just a little bit. You can see this detail here and the detail that comes up under the side. This is from Marina Skua, and it is her Dryopterus top, and I love this so much. It was actually a little bit of a labor of love just because I am a bigger size. I believe I did her size 7, which is 56 inches around. I chose that bigger size because I wanted it a little bit looser, even though my measurements are 53. And but it's done on size 2 needles, and which is a US something very small. I think it's US 2.75, and it's fingering weight. So this is Pandia's Jewels Snug, and this is her color Evermore. And actually, and it's really difficult to tell, thank goodness, but I did want to make this just a little bit longer than what the pattern had called for. So I wasn't sure that the 3 skeins of the Snug were going to be enough. So I supplemented with dots everywhere. You'll notice that about me. They go all the time. Knit Picks Stroll, and it was the Agate Heather colorway, and it very closely is slightly darker and definitely not as tonal as the Evermore, but it matched very close. So what I did was I striped that in the ribbing. I don't think you can see, maybe if I go up. It's a split hem, and so I did the striping in the ribbing of the 2 colors, just alternated every couple rows, and I did the same thing here and on the ribbing here. The rest of it is all the Evermore, which is a beautiful tonal, and I think I kind of gave you a little bit of a glimpse of that last time. Let me adjust my chair. So it turns out that I probably didn't need to use this because what I ended up having left over from the Evermore would have made been just fine. But I'm glad that I did it because I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to be left playing yard chicken and having a stark difference at the end. This way I made it kind of balanced. I have a little bit of both yarns left. I still could have made it a little bit longer, but again, I wasn't sure how much I was going to have. And I'm thinking that I'm going to, since this is a split hem, I'm thinking of picking up stitches along the bottom of the front part of the hem and adding a little bit of length to the front just because I am a bigger size and I tend to carry my weight all up top. So I've got a bigger bust, I've got a bigger belly, and what that tends to do is raise everything up in the front. So even though when you hold it up, it's perfectly even, but when I put it on, it's always going to rise up just a little bit in the front. And I'll put in some pictures of me wearing this, and you'll kind of see that. And so I'm thinking I'm going to do kind of like a high-low hem, but usually when you hear high-low hem, you think it's lower in the back and higher in the front because most people want to cover their booties. I want a little bit more coverage in my front because just the way that I'm shaped, I feel like it needs to be a little bit longer in the front, but I'm also short torsoed, so if I put too much length in the back, then it just all kind of makes me look stumpy. So I think that I'm going to try this high-low hem theory, but with the longer side in the front. See how that works out. I don't know when I'm going to get to that because right now this works perfectly. I'm wearing it with a high-waisted skirt, so it looks perfect. You don't see what I'm trying to cover up if I were wearing pants. So I love it, and it's so lightweight, and it's perfect for the warmer weather. I was kind of skeptical because I'm thinking wool in the summer, but it's, let's see, the snug is, I believe it's a 75 merino, superwash merino, and 25 nylon. And I was thinking wool in the summer, but it's, especially here in New Mexico, my goodness, it is so hot. But this is lovely. I love it so, so much. And she did this very well, the armholes. A lot of times I see patterns or even clothes in general at the stores. They figure because you're bigger everywhere else, they give you this really deep armhole. It drives me insane because a lot of times I end up having to wear something underneath because you're seeing half my body through the armhole. And especially in the tank tops and sleeveless kind of things. So she did super well getting that correct. Everything fits so good, and it's not too tight, it's not too loose, it's not saggy, it's perfect. She did so well. So way to go, Marina. I love it so much, and I really do want to make another one, maybe in a more vibrant color, as opposed to the neutral. I love the neutral because I can wear it with anything, but I do like color. So we'll see how that works out. The next thing that I want to talk about is another test knit. Now this was for the Stitchin' Witch, who is Jen. Now this one was a little bit of a fail. And I am very, very sad about this because, you know, when you do a test knit for someone, you want to give them a really good finished product. And this one just did not work out. And it's not the fault of the pattern or the designer. This was after discussing it with her and some of the other test knitters who come to find out they ended up having some of the same issues that I did, was a sizing choice issue. So let me hold it up for you. If you remember, this is the one that I striped using Pandia's Jewels, the Festival of Lights, and then the Sock Obsession yak singles in the chocolate. It was the chemical name for chocolate. I can't think of the number now. But this is what it ended up looking like, and this is the front. And again, optical illusion. You can see there's the little twisted stitches here on this side, and that is also done on the back panel for that side. You can see the twisted stitches there. The other side is plain, just like it's under here. It's supposed to be like a tulip style back. Now the problem is it's not supposed to look like this. It's supposed to look with thinner straps, and they're supposed to cross and be delicate and kind of just flow and then end up. And I will put a photo of what it should look like, but once I had it all seamed up, it turns out that I probably chose the back panel sizes, the sizes for the back panels too big. she has you measure from here, across here, diagonal across your back to your, an inch under your armpit. And I don't know if I measured wrong because I was by myself, or I don't know, but I picked the 19 inch and apparently that was too big. The front side, the front is perfect. It fits perfect. So the back side, and she did say, you know, there is issues. When I finally told her, and after I had already showed her what I had to do to tack it up to get it to fit me and cover me, she showed me a picture of one of her prototypes, and she's like, is this what happened? And I said, yes, that's exactly what happened. And everything was just long and droopy in the back. The front part was great. And she said, yes, it's because you've chosen the wrong size for your back panels. And as the test knit progressed, a few other people had done the same thing. I was the first one to bring it up, and I was heartbroken because this is so beautiful and I love it, and it's still absolutely wearable. But you know, you want to give something, you say you're going to give them what they need, and then, you know, this ended up being a fail. I'm sorry if I feel very emotional about this because, you know, I wanted to give her a good product, and she designed such a beautiful top. But I think that because I wasn't the only one, there's some notes and some feedback that she was able to gather so that she can put in her pattern so that other people don't make that same mistake, because the back panels ended up to be very, very stretchy. One of the other test knitters also mentioned that maybe because it's knit in 3 different pieces, and she asked if I had blocked the pieces at the same time or separately. And I said I blocked them separately. I finished the front and I blocked it, and as that was drying, I knit the panel. And then I blocked that one, and as that's drying, I knit the second panel, back panel. And she said that that might be also part of the issue because I wasn't laying the pieces out together and making sure that they lined up, and I may have inadvertently overblocked the back panels. And I can see that, you know, that makes sense. I tried very hard not to, but she did, Jen did mention that the back panels stretch a lot. So I think there might've been a combination of things going on. And, but I love it. You can see I had to doctor it. I wasn't going to rip everything out, right? There was no time. I was at the end of the deadline, and there was just no time, and I really wanted to get her some pictures for her release. So I did some Frankensteining. So the back panels were too long, and I needed to also bring it up a little bit in the front, just because that was the way I was going to be able to make them fit. So this is a little clunky. This is going to be the underside of the strap. Okay, this is where I seamed it, but this is the underside. So you can see I had to fold it back. This wasn't like, the straps were not knit this way. They were knit diagonally long ways. So I would have had to completely start over to do it. So what I did was I folded it down, and I folded a little bit of the front down just so that I can get them to line up nicely. And I used the mattress stitch to seam here as opposed to the 2 finished ends. I did that on both sides, and I think I did a pretty good job. You can't really see it from, I mean, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. It just, for me, it feels like I have padded shoulders. But I got it all seamed up, and then in the back, everything was just still too wonky and dangly. So instead of the 2 pieces draping and kind of crossing, I had to basically seam entirely all the way across. And I should have taken a before picture because it was a disaster. I was on the verge of tears the whole time I was trying to doctor this up. But I seamed it all the way across. So instead of that pretty crisscross, I ended up with more of a scoop neck in the back. A scooped back. And then I had to tack a couple of places here. You can see this is open, but there's a place where I had to tack here because this under piece wanted to curl for some reason. I wanted to twist. And then other than that, it sits pretty well. It looks good. And if you haven't seen my Instagram, I'll go ahead and post another picture here of me wearing it. It looks good, and Jen was super, super nice, and she was super patient, and she gave a lot of feedback, constructive criticism, and she helped me figure out where I went wrong, and it made me feel so much better about the whole situation, because even now I still feel very bad that I didn't give her something that was perfect. And I know that's vain and that's ridiculous. I mean, you can't be perfect. But I really, when you say you're going to do something for someone and then you end up failing at it, it's heartbreaking. But she released her pattern, and I think that it's still something that I want to try again at some point in the future. Right now, it's still a little too fresh for me. I need to give it a break, but I think I would like to make a smaller size for my daughter at some point, but not right now. But it's still wearable. I love it. I can still use it. Probably even still, I mean, both of these, they're wool, so I can still wear them through fall here in New Mexico. We don't get crazy cold falls, but by the time mid-October, it's going to be too cold. So I still got a couple of months that I can, or a couple of weeks that I can still wear both of them. So let's go on to something else. This is my finished bag that I crocheted. I told you I kind of winged this. I made it up on the fly, and I gave it to my daughter, and she used it for a little while, but she did find she was putting too many things in there. 2 water bottles and her headphones, which are the big headphones, and her snacks for lunch, and because it's crochet, it's gonna sag, so she didn't want to stretch it out too much, so she hasn't used it. I haven't lined it like I was thinking. I may still do that, but I'm not sure. This may end up just being kind of a lightweight bag, as opposed to something more like she was using it for the heavier things. But let me turn this inside out and show you what I ended up doing with the ends. I showed you that I was thinking of braiding it, and I did. So there's the braid of all my ends. Now the reason why it goes diagonal is because every time I attached a color, or I finished off a round, and I would break that color, and then I would go up to the next row and start the next color, I didn't start it in the same hole. I started it one hole over, and I did that every single time, so that kind of made it a diagonal. And I always do that when I crochet, just because in my mind, I'm like, even though I know I'm going to tuck in all these ends and everything's going to be secure, I feel like it's more secure if I have the ends kind of, or it's not a seam, just where everything closes is kind of staggered. Sometimes I'll go back and forth like this, but this time I chose to go in a diagonal. I just feel like it's more sturdy that way. But I didn't tuck in my ends as I went, because this is the granny type stitch, and it doesn't look cute to just crochet over the way if it was a solid single crochet or solid double or whatever. You can kind of just crochet over it as you go, and it looks fine. It's completely hidden. But with this type of stitch, it's so open that it doesn't look cute to just crochet right over it. So I left them, and I ended up doing kind of like a French braid. And here you can see it's a little bit bulky right here, because as I went, all of them were about 6 inches long. All the ends were about 6 inches long. So like I don't know if I'm explaining this right. The end that for here, say this green one, stopped here, but I was picking up other strands of yarn as I went. So as I was picking up new ones, some of the older or earlier ones were ending. So this is never super bulky. It's kind of always the same thickness, but that meant at the end, as I was finishing the braid, all of the other ones were starting to end, and I wasn't adding anything new, so it started to get really thin. So that's why I didn't end up pushing it through the front and making a tassel. of some sort to make it kind of decorative. So it got super thin. So I ended up finishing the braid and then curling it around and then weaving it within itself here, and you can't even tell. There's a little bit of piece sticking out there, but that's why I didn't go with making like a decorative type of tassel thing. And it worked out. Like I say, you can't tell from the front at all, and if you don't pull the ends too tightly as you're braiding them, you can't see it. There's no puckering or anything. So perfect. I love it. It's a nice cute little size, although right now it's all kinds of bunched up because I keep messing with it. Now this bag was made with during the Toad Hollow summer camp, and I mentioned that they did themes throughout summer. So June was the stuffies, July was the bag, and I forgot something. I did forget one more finished object, and it's related to this, so I'm going to be right back. Give me one moment. So this is what was done for August. Pillow. Now they were choosing winners, like prize drawings, and I happened to win for July. They mentioned it on one of their last podcasts. They mentioned my name and I won a prize, and I don't know what it is. So I should be getting that here soon, and I will be sure to share that with you, but I'm super excited. This pillow is what I made for the August one, and it actually didn't start its life as a pillow. I did this several years ago. I want to say about 7 years ago. I knit all of this color work, and again, this is Herrschner's 2-ply afghan yarn. This is the chocolate color. This is cream. This was light beige, and this was the medium rust. And it's 100% acrylic. It's a sport weight. Now the pattern is called the Xena Cowl, and I'll put the name of the designer up here. I made this when it first came out, and I fell in love with the pattern. It was so pretty. But I mean, look at that. That would have been a cowl. That's too huge. I mean, and this was when I was still relatively new to knitting, and I eyeballed the weight of the yarn, and I thought, oh, that looks like a fingering weight. No, it ended up being a sport weight, and that does affect your gauge and the overall size. So it ended up too big, and I couldn't bear throwing it out because that was a lot of work, and it's so pretty. So here it comes years later. Helen and Mary Beth decide that they're going to do their summer camp and decide that they're going to do pillows. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to make that a pillow. So what I ended up doing, this here was a folded picot hem. I don't know if you could see the ridges of the picot. So you knit in stockinette, and then you do an entire row of eyelets all the way around. Then you do more stockinette, and then you fold it right at the point where the eyelets were, and then you seam them, you tack that down on the inside, and it creates this lovely little bumpy ridge, if you can tell. So what I ended up doing is following that same, and it's a good thing I still had, I tell you, I have tons of this 2-ply afghan yarn, and I still had some of this color left. So what I did is I followed that same line from where I tacked the folded end down, and I just whip stitched all the way across, stuffed it, and then did the same thing on the bottom. And so it worked out beautifully. So that ended up giving me not only a beautiful pillow, but a ruffly top and bottom. It's kind of wonky right now because I have been using this every night since I finished it. I have lower back problems, and I always find that putting a pillow, because I'm a side sleeper, if I put a pillow kind of in my lower back, it helps me from sleeping weird. It keeps me in the position that I want to be in instead of kind of rolling and twisting, and then I end up achy. So I put this, been shoving this up under my lower back, and I've been sleeping so good. And it's just, I probably overstuffed it, but I do love a good firm pillow. So super happy. So that is all I've got right now for my finished objects. I've got a couple of whips that I want to mention. These are, let's see, I think I've got two shawls, and the one that was going to be a shawl, but I think I might end up making a top out of it. Maybe, I'm still not sure about that. But this first one I'm going to show you is the Hercule Poirot holiday shawl, which is the English translation. It's French, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Les Vacances de Hercule Poirot, something like that. It's one that I've had, and I believe it's a free pattern, but it's one that I've had in my, I printed it 8,000 years ago, and it's just been there, and I finally decided I was going to use it. And so far this is what it is. There is a little bit of, you can't really tell that it's textured here because of the yarn that I chose. It's got sparkles. But there's a little bit in the solid section of some pretty knit and purl texture, and then it goes into some short rows and mosaic. You really have to pay attention to this one because short rows and mosaic together, not your best TV knitting. I mean, you can do it while watching TV, but it ain't easy. So this is the mosaic. I just finished all of the mosaic short rows. So now what it's going to do is start transitioning into just the lighter color for lace that's going to mimic the design in the mosaic. So very cool. And then it'll end with a different type of lace at the very bottom, bringing in the dark color again. Beautiful, beautiful pattern. I'll put the name again up here. I think they have another one that I want to make that also has to do with Agatha Christie characters. So super excited about that one, but I'm a little nervous also because that one hasn't been translated into English. It's in French only, and I'm going to try using Google Translate to see if that'll help me. I think I might know a little bit enough about knitting and charts and stuff to maybe get by, but we'll see. That is going to be an adventure, but for another time. So the yarn that I'm using, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I will look it up and I will put the names up here. I know that they are both Etsy dyers, and it's two different dyers. And I bought this first years ago, and I want to say it's called Baby. It's Cold Outside is the color. And you can see there's some sparkle in there. And then more recently, from a different Etsy shop, I got this one, and it's also got the sparkle in there. And then I kept thinking about the Hercule Poirot shawl, and I thought, boom, perfect, perfect, perfect. I love when that happens. You buy them completely, no idea what you're going to do with them. You just think, oh, it's so beautiful, and then magic happens. And I am loving it so much. I can't get over how pretty the colors are together, and the design is so striking and beautiful. But man, I had to pay attention. It's not, I wouldn't say it's at the most difficult end of my abilities, but it's up there. It's more of a focus thing than it is difficult. And this is all the mosaic that's going to be in the pattern. I'm glad I worked through it because I do love this. It's so beautiful, and for a free pattern, my goodness, there's a lot of work in this. It's just, she put a lot into it, and then to have it translated from French to English, it's so beautiful, and I can't wait to start the lace, which is going to be in the lighter color. Super, 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 super excited. I've been wanting to make this one for a long, long time, and I had even had these 2 yarns pulled out of my stash and just set up on a drawer, a chest of drawers by my bed, so that the next time I wanted to start something new, I would grab that, and then for some reason I would just always end up grabbing something else, and I think it's because of the mosaic. But finally I said, you know what? I want to make that so bad. And so here you go. I'm super excited. I hope to have that done very soon. At least by the next podcast it'll be done. So there's that. Let's go into one last whip that I want to show you. I mentioned this last time. The deadline for this was actually today. It was a knit along for Breaking Yarn. She was doing the Breaking Yarn birthday cow. But because I got caught up on the test knits, I didn't really put too much time into this. I kind of put it off to the wayside. But I mentioned that this was either going to be a rectangular shawl or a top. That's the back side. So this is what I've got so far. Now, if it's a shawl, it's going to end up being this. And then this will be the same thing on the very other end. And then in the middle across the back would be just this, because I'm only using minis for this. Now let's get into what those minis are. They're all Breaking Yarn colorways, which are based off of the TV show Breaking Bad. That's McKaylee's little gimmick, and it's so fun. I love it, love it, love it. So let's see, I started with the green. I know what's in here. There it is. This is Walter White. There's a piece of fuzz on there. And then the next color is Crystal Meth. This is actually more of a turquoisey color. On camera it kind of looks very blue, but it's more of a turquoisey color. Ferry, New Mexico. And then the next color is Hank Schrader. And then this is called Hazmat Suit. Very, very, very yellow. And I've mentioned before, yellow is not my color. It's my least favorite color. But I don't mind it as a little bit of an accent here and there. As an overall color, would not be doing this. But it's looking so fun in this. Now this is Lily of the Valley. I don't know how McKaylee was able to get a white. She did it, and it's fabulous. And let's see. So the next color that I chose to use was Gray Matter. And then I put on this. This is such a decadent color. Like, it feels like a very rich dessert. This is Marie Schrader. And oh gosh, my lighting is just doing some things here. But it's this neon purple with a little bit right there. Neon purple with a little bit of fuchsia. That's still kind of a little on the blue side on the camera. Super, super pretty. And then I am right now using Jane Margolis, which is a beautiful black. And then the last color I haven't used yet is Bleeding Out. Fabulous true red. So what I'm doing, and this is all made up. I don't know, I decided to get up into the little gray cells and think of some things. So I'm doing a seed stitch with my neutral color, and I'll show that in a minute. But all of the minis I'm doing in a daisy stitch. And so here is my main size needle. And then this one I went up and I think this is a US 6, which is a 4mm. For this patterning, I am using a 7, which is a 4.5mm, because this daisy stitch really pulls in. So I needed to go up so that it doesn't throw off the entire size and shaping of the shawl. And then I'm doing the seed stitch in between. I'm doing 4 rows of the seed stitch in between each color. And then once I finish with the bleeding out, then I'll do a long section of just the neutral color. Part of me is thinking I'm going to use it this way, and this will be my front of a sleeveless top, and then do an identical one for a back. But it just depends on if it blocks out wide enough. It's a little bit wider than I wanted for a shawl, but maybe not quite wide enough for my size of top. But if I still decide to go with the top option, I have a contingency plan. So let's go with the neutrals. Oh goodness, do I even remember? I think these are 2 different yarns. They're very similar. They've got some of the same speckles. This is obviously a little more heavily speckled, but I've been alternating skeins every 2 rows, and you can't even tell. Look at this. Look at that. You can't even tell. It looks like one thing. So it worked out perfectly. Let's see. Here we go. I do have the balls. So this one is Valhalla Farm, and it's called Sidewalk Chalk, and that's this. This is the one with the subtle speckling. And then the other one, which is more heavily speckled, and this is Fuse Fiber Studio, and this is called Wanderlust on their twist sock. So that is working out really well. Now, if I did it the shawl, going the rectangular shawl, I think I would probably work all the way until I get to where the other color work would be. I would probably stop after I finish the red, start the second part and finish at the red, and then, or actually continue on with the rest of the neutral color, and then Kitchener to where the red ends, if that makes any sense. So instead of Kitchenering in the halfway point of the shawl, I would be Kitchenering at the end of my stripes. Because there is a knit row in the striping that would make it perfect for me to just do a knit Kitchener and make it easier on myself than trying to do a grafting in seed stitch. I don't think my brain could handle that. So I'll probably, if I do that as a shawl, then that's how I would do it. Now, if I end up deciding that I want to continue it as a top, I'm probably gonna be adding some panel on the side just to give it a little more width, because I kind of want it loose and flowy. What I'm planning on doing is just making 2 rectangles and then seaming here, leaving a hole, kind of making a boat neck, just leaving the open area alone. I might go through and do maybe a short bit of knitting just to make sure that it fits and it doesn't droop. But I close this up here and then seam up here, just leaving a hole and just leaving it open, making it a sleeveless, kind of like a boxy kind of thing. So to make those side panels, to if I need to widen the shawl, or the the two pieces to make it fit as a top, I would probably use this. Now it's very different than these, but it would be in this area and you really wouldn't see it all that much. So I'm still kind of debating that. I don't know. I really want it to be a top, and I think this will be a nice little supplement. And maybe as far as, like I say, closing up the boat neck a little bit, giving a little more sturdiness and structure, I could probably use some of this as well, just to kind of echo the color somewhere else in the top. So I'm thinking about that, but this is all, like I say, I'm just kind of going off the cuff. I've got all these ideas. I may come up with something different again as I'm still going, so who knows. But that's my breaking yarn birthday cow project, which I'm already missing the deadline. I'm obviously not going to finish that today. So that is a lot of things going on. I did read a few books. Let's see. I'm not going to go into too much detail about them. I read actually quite a few, but I'll just go through a couple of the major ones. I read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and then the very next day my daughter and I went and saw the movie, which we both loved for different reasons, but I had such a good time watching that movie and having read the book the day before. And actually it was audiobook because it was easier for me to understand as an audiobook, but it was so good. Loved it. Then I read Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I had read that when it first came out, and then the movie came out, and I hadn't read the book since then, and man, I forgot how exciting it is. I forgot what some of the differences are because I've seen the movie 8,000 times. But going back and rereading that book now as an adult, it was so much more that I caught. And, and then I really get to see the differences between the movie and the book, and how they changed some of the characters. And it was so good. I had a blast. I loved it. And then I listened to the audiobook of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Audible has a version of it that is read by Richard Armitage. I fell in love with him and his voice from when he was in the Hobbit movies. I won't comment on the Hobbit movies themselves, but he's got a beautiful voice. Very deep and rich and resonant. And so, because I liked his voice so much in an audiobook, I also listened to him in an Agatha Christie book, The Murder on the Links. And he does really, really, really well with that, especially considering Hugh Fraser is my Hercule Poirot voice of all time. I don't think he did quite as well as Hugh Fraser, but Richard Armitage does have a wonderful voice, and he did really, really well. So I had a great time with that. Right now, I'm in the middle of this one. It's called The Lock by Stephen Alton. Let me see if I can show you the name. This is set in Scotland, obviously, and it's hinting that it's about the Loch Ness Monster. But is the Loch Ness Monster what we think it is? Or does it even exist? Is it something else? I don't know. It's a little bit of a thriller, a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a horror. It's very, very good. And then the other thing that I started, somehow I've fallen down the manga rabbit hole. I know that there is an anime on Netflix called Vinland Saga, but I found out that this is based on a series of manga. So I got them from the library. And the author, let me get the author's name because the library covers it sometimes and it drives me insane. There we go. And so far, I've read this much. Manga are weird because you got to read it from what we would consider the back of the book to the front. So it's completely backward. Even reading on the page, you're reading from right to left. Very much, you have to get used to it, and it took me a little bit, but I'm really enjoying it. I've got all 11 books in the series, but from what I understand, you only have to read maybe the first 2 books to be comfortable watching this TV series, the anime. So I'm excited about that. Having fun with it, and I'm having fun exploring new horizons in my reading. I think that is about all I'm going to get into today. Just a quick little update in my personal life. If you all recall, several months ago, I had my gallbladder removed. During that time, they had to put in a stent to help with that process. And now is coming up within the next week for me to have that stent removed. It's all going to be endoscopic, so it's through the throat. I'm not going to have any outward incisions, so it should heal up rather quickly. I'm very happy about that. They are going to have to put me under, but that's okay. I just want to get all of this done. I've been feeling a whole lot better since I've had the gallbladder removed, and no more pain. It's wonderful to not be in constant pain all the time. So very happy about that. I really don't have a whole lot more to talk to you about. Again, thank you so much to all the new subscribers who have come to hang out with me. I know that this one is a little bit scattered, mostly because I started a volunteer type of job in a bookstore. It's a nonprofit kind of bookstore that their proceeds go to youth literacy programs and stuff like that within the city, and everything there, all of their inventory is given by donation, so used books, and their employees are all volunteer, and I just started doing that, so I'm gonna go and do that in just a few minutes. So I'm kind of a little bit like, I haven't really been out of the house in a bit. So as far as, like working and interacting with people and everything. So this will be my 3rd or 4th time going to the bookshop as a volunteer, but I'm still quite nervous about it, and I am so silly. So I'm gonna go hang around with some books and some book people, and I will see you all the next time. But again, I really, really thank you all so much. And thank you again to Aquilla for mentioning me on her podcast. I'm pretty sure that that's where all of this new influx of viewers came in, and I am so appreciative. I wish you all a wonderful September. And speaking of real quick, September, as far as my reading, I am doing sci-fi September. So everything that I'm going to be reading in September is sci-fi. If you want to maybe join along and post in the comments what you would read as for if you're into sci-fi at all. And then of course October is going to be spooky season, so scary books for all of October. I feel very awkward today. I'm gonna go do my volunteer stuff. So again, thank you so much for hanging out, and I hope to see you again next time, and have a wonderful month. Bye.